The wait is over. It was 136 days ago that Ferencváros won the Champions League. A new season is upon us. These are the highlights of round one, the group stage of the Water Polo Champions League. These are the results of round one. Radnichki Vasas 17-16. Olympiacos Mladost 13-9. Jadran Jadran split 14-11. Marseilles Hanover 29. FTC Oradea 19-11. Primorac Brescia 13-14. Sabadell Barcelonetta 12-16. And Beograd Pro Recco 8-12. One of the derbies of the first round of the Champions League was played in Kragujevac, where Radnichki hosted Vasas. The Serbian team was already very strong last season, reaching the Euro Cup final, and this year they have further strengthened their squad. Uroš Stevanovic's team brought in Perlanovic, Vlachopoulos, Viktor Rasovic, Dedovic and Rangelovic, with the bottom two arriving directly from Vasas. On the other side, Vasas, who reached the Euro Cup quarter-finals last year, signed 4 players from OSC: Varnai, Giefas, Sazlai and Coimbra. Radnichki therefore entered the season with the highest possible ambitions and is one of the main title contenders. However, it was Vasas who had the better start to the match. They took a 2-0 lead within the first minutes thanks to a goal by Giefas. The first quarter ended 3-5 after an extra player goal by Mursic. Early in the second quarter, the hosts managed to equalise through Stanhinja Rasovic, making it 7-7. But the visitors once again pulled ahead with another extra player goal by Drdic. Another turnaround came by the end of the first half. In the final minute, Stanhinja Rasovic scored again to tie the game at 9-9. Still, Radnichki couldn't manage to take the lead, and in fact, Vasas pulled ahead again with a penalty goal by Batory. As the third quarter progressed, the Serbian champions started playing better and better. They first equalised with a counter-attack goal by the brilliant Rasovic, and then finally took the lead for the first time, this time through a goal by captain Perlanovic. In fact, half a minute before the end of the quarter, one of the best players of the match, Rasovic, scored again on an extra player to make it 14-12. Radnichki began to break down the resistance of Slobodan Nikic's team, and probably the key moment came just over 6 minutes before the end, when Vlachopoulos scored to give Radnichki their biggest lead of the match, +3. All Vasas could do before the end was narrow the gap to 17-16 with an extra player goal by Lakatos, but it was already too late. The hosts could begin celebrating their first points, while the visitors will have to look elsewhere for theirs. Radnichki had 2 outstanding players. Andrea Perlanovic scored an impressive 6 goals, and Stanhinja Rasovic added 4. For Vasas, the top scorer was Tamas Balas Giefas with 5 goals. The cauldron of Piraeus set the stage for Mladost's long-awaited return to Europe's top-tier club competition, their first Champions League appearance in 6 long years. Olympiacos, notorious for turning their home pool into a fortress, were eager to start fresh after a bitter early exit from last season's campaign. And with a new coach at the helm, a familiar figure in the water polo world, Olympiacos turned to another Croatian to lead their charge. Elvis Fatovic, the former Barcelonetta boss, now steers the ship of Greece's most decorated club. And the only acquisition beside him is yet another Hungarian ace, Daniel Anghel, the ex-Marseille player. Meanwhile, the 7-time title holders advanced convincingly through the qualification phase, finishing top of their group as the tournament host back in September. A squad stacked with proven performers and up-and-comers, blending established names with breakout talent sounds like a recipe for success. With a seasoned hand steering the ship, Zoran Bajic returns to lead Mladost once again, having been in charge throughout their last Champions League stint. Mladost has bolstered their lineup with 5 new additions, including a familiar face who has been seen sporting the iconic red and white of Olympiacos until this season, Luka Lončar. It couldn't have started any better for the visitors. 3 attacks, 3 goals. The B trio, Bukic, Basic and Biljaka, all hit the target as Olympiacos struggled to find their rhythm. Fatovic quickly recognised his team's shaky start and called a timely timeout, a decision that proved to be the right one. The home side finally responded midway through the opening period, with Anghel capitalising on their second man-up opportunity. Soon after, Zelenki fired in his first from 6 metres, bringing Olympiacos a step closer to levelling the score. Just a glimpse what's about to come from the Hungarian lefty. The comeback could have been completed even earlier, but Papanastasio's penalty was denied by Marseilles. The visitors made their own penalty count, as Kharkov converted to level the score once more. It turned out to be Mladost's last equaliser of the match, their first goal after nearly 8 minutes without one. Staying on the topic of penalty shots, Zelenki became the next Olympiacos player to miss from 5 metres. However, he quickly made amends, netting 2 more before half-time to reach 4 goals by the break. Make that 5. Zelenki opened the third period with his 5th, meaning 5 of Olympiacos' 7 goals so far had come from the unstoppable Hungarian. Pull up the penalty count. It's a rare sight to see a team miss every single penalty in one match. Genodinias was next in line for Olympiacos and met the same fate. 9 goals were scored in a thrilling penultimate period, including Zelenki's 6th and final goal of the night. He just couldn't resist finding the back of the net with only seconds left on the clock, yet again. The final 8 minutes brought a low-scoring affair, just 3 goals in total to close out the first European test. Anghel added another to stretch the lead to +4 before Vukucevic cut it back slightly with 5 minutes remaining. But it wasn't enough. Missed chances and struggles in the final third undermined their comeback hopes. Gikilias sealed the deal with a powerful action shot, confirming the points would stay in Greece, to the delight of the home fans who turned up once again to cheer on their favourites. Trebinje in Bosnia-Herzegovina is again the host for Jadran Novi's home games. In this first round, they met a rival they know well, Jadran Split, whom they played 4 times last season in the Champions League and Regional League. The team, led by Vladimir Gojkovic, has gone through significant changes this summer. Merkulov, Valera, Andrić and Janovic joined an already strong squad. On the other side was the Croatian champions. The coach Maurelia now has Matkovic from Primorac and Nemet, who has joined from Ferencvaros. The guests started better. 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, Zovic scores from outside for a 1-3 Jadran Split lead. That lead didn't last long. Jadran Novi responded and was ahead before the end of the first quarter. Stupar scores his second goal in the match from the right side for 4-3. The hosts had a 2-goal advantage at the start of the second quarter, but the Croats responded. Matkovic has a bit of luck on the post for 5-5. The Montenegrins scored 2 in a row again and were leading 7-5 at the half-time. Kolod made it 8-5 from outside. Jadran Split tried to come back. Matkovic scores his third for 8-6, but then Valera, Gojkovic from 5 metres and Vranes make it 11-6. Vatovic, who was well guarded the entire game, uses a bit of space for 11-7, only for Stupar to finish the quarter with another goal for Jadran Novi. 12-7 for the Montenegrin champions. The last quarter started with Nemet reducing the deficit. But after Janovic scored from far away in the last seconds of the attack, it was clear that the points are not going to Croatia. It finished 14-11 for Jadran Novi. The Montenegrin champions were ahead almost the entire match and deserved the victory. In the next round, Jadran Novi is visiting Genoa to meet Pro Recco, whilst Jadran Split is awaiting Novi Beograd in Poljud's pool in Split. The reigning European champions, Ferencváros, began their quest for a third consecutive title at home against the Romanian champions, Oradea. The popular Fradi team made a few changes to their squad for this season. It's worth noting the arrival of Levi from Vasas, while Adam Nagy, Paul and Nemeth departed. Oradea also didn't undergo major changes. For instance, Oltien arrived from Miskolc and Szabo left. A week ago, the Hungarians added another trophy to their already rich collection when they defeated Pro Recco in the Super Cup. Even though they played this match without the injured Mandic, they were still considered the heavy favourites. However, the Romanian team managed to put up quite a solid fight at the beginning, even taking a 2-0 lead early on with a goal from Ilusi. But by the end of the first quarter, the hosts had already turned the game around. First, Varga scored to make it 3-3. And then Akos Nagy gave Ferencváros their first lead. The second quarter proved decisive. Ferencváros built an unattainable lead. When Gardashevich scored with an extra player to make it 6-4, it looked like Oradea was still in the game. However, from that moment on, the Champions League winners scored 5 unanswered goals and went into half-time leading 11-4 after a goal from Payan. In the second half, the visitors were a more equal opponent, with the third quarter ending 3-3. Their third goal came from Oltien with a man up. The Fradi reached their biggest lead with a goal from Vismek, making it 18-9 late in the game. Oradea managed to narrow the gap slightly before the end, and the final score of 19-11 was set by Gardashevich with an extra player. The Greens thus secured their expected first 3 points, led by Vismek with 5 goals. On the other side, Gardashevich was the top scorer with 4. Last season's semi-finalists, for the first time in the club's history, opened their new campaign against Hanover, the first hurdle on their path to repeating that remarkable run within the Group D. No shortage of young, fresh faces in their lineup heading into a new season. Among 5 of them are Radomir Drašovic, Adam Nagy, Efstathios Kalogeropoulos, all united by their medal-winning pedigree. The German side strengthened their roster with just one addition for the new season, former Montpellier player Sam Vandenberg. They held their ground well throughout the opening period, keeping the match tightly contested in its early stages. It was goal for goal until Marseille began to pull away, first towards the end of the opening quarter, then further at the start of the second. Bouet was among the standout performers on the night, delivering a flawless display. 5 goals in 5 attempts, pure efficiency. From penalty shots to action plays and long-range efforts, you name it, he delivered. 7 different players found their way onto the score sheet, with captain Crossilliat and Verno each netting 4, though the captain did it with flawless 100% efficiency. In comparison, one less on the list for the other side, Hanover, with Kurpers, Strzelecki and Lozina each netting 2 apiece. For most of the match, the only question was just how large the final margin would be in favour of Milos Štěpanović's side. An 11-goal difference. A result that underlined the home side's edge in quality and ambition. Marseille deservedly claimed their first European points of the season. Kotor set the scene as 2 national runners-up, fresh from their Champions League qualification triumphs, faced off. Primorac kicked off the new season with the new coach Athanasios Kechagias, plus 3 new recruits, while Brescia also reinforced its lineup by adding 3 new players. The visitors got off to a stronger start, with Alessandro Bovo's side striking twice in succession through Giannazza and Ferrero. New arrival Inaba found a way past Radnichki, and around a minute later Savo Chetkovic matched his effort from close range to equalise. Goal for goal by the end of the quarter, as both teams used their man-up opportunities. A sign that this one would be close from start to finish. 3-3. The story remained the same. Every time Brescia went up, Primorac found an answer, but never the one to swing the momentum completely their way. That is, until the closing 4 minutes of the half, when the balance tilted for the very first time. Savo Chetkovic capitalised on the power play, extending Stanijevic's momentum and putting Primorac in front for the first time. The Montenegrin side netted 3 consecutive goals, the third courtesy of Mrsic, who opened his account from the penalty line. But the home crowd's joy was short-lived. Brescia responded through Giannazza and Balzarini, both scoring from open play to restore parity at 7-7. Mrsic wasted no time after half-time, finding the net to restore Primorac's narrow lead. The Italian side refused to back down, netting twice in just 43 seconds with Balzarini at the heart of the turnaround. The game of catch-up didn't stop there. The relentless exchange continued as Mrsic, Dolce and Burkic kept Primorac within reach, until the dying moments of the quarter tipped the balance once more. Popadic, a well-known figure and a fresh face in Leone's ranks, converted from the penalty to nudge Brescia ahead. 8 intense minutes of grit and suspense still ahead. Mrsic, who led all scorers with 4, teamed up with Vico to bring Primorac back within reach. Ferrero scored from the penalty, Mrsic cancelled the lead, and it all came down to the final 3 minutes. Brescia rattled the post twice, but Radnichki came to the rescue time and time again. First, a brilliant save to stop Inaba on the counter, then another in the final seconds of the man-up, ending the night with 11 saves. 2 more than Dmitry Rishchevich at the other end. 13-13 stayed. As the clock ticked into the final minute and all signs pointed to a shootout, a familiar face came back to haunt them. Vlado Popadic netted his second of the evening with a precise action goal to seal the win and deliver Brescia their first European points of the season. The first round brought us a Spanish derby between the country's runner-up and the champions. Sabadell brought in some interesting names, such as Famera from Barcelonetta and Cabanas from Jug. On the other hand, they lost several key players, including Bustos, Valera and Renzuto. Barcelonetta, uncharacteristically, went through many changes. Peroni retired, coach Fatovic took over Olympiacos, and the most painful departure was certainly Alvaro Granados moving to Pro Recco. There were also some arrivals. They strengthened their squad with Echenique, Bustos, Volotto, and the bench was taken over by former assistant Fran Fernandez. That this wouldn't be an easy match for Barcelonetta was clear from the very beginning, when Averka put the home team in the lead. However, the visitors soon turned things around and took a 3-1 lead with a goal from Sanauja. Sabadell didn't back down and responded with 3 goals in a row, the last one scored by Bonne Saez for another turnaround. The third quarter was the most exciting. The hosts started strong, scoring twice through Famera and Cabanas for a 2-goal lead. But what followed was something almost no one expected. It seemed to fire up Barcelonetta's players, who then scored 7 goals in a row. It all started with a goal from Vigvari for 9-8, and it ended with a goal by Biel Lara at the start of the final quarter. Sabadell went more than 8 minutes without scoring. The streak was finally broken by Averka from a penalty. But by then, the shock was too much for the hosts, and they were also running out of time. In the second half, they looked physically exhausted. The visitors calmly maintained their lead until the end, and Volotto restored a 5-goal advantage. The final score of 12-16 was set by Averka with another penalty goal. In the last 2.5 minutes, there were no more goals. In the end, it may look like a comfortable win for Barcelonetta, but they had to work hard for it. This season's signing, Volotto, was their standout performer with 3 goals from 3 attempts. On the other side, Averka was brilliant with 5 goals from 5 attempts, but even that wasn't enough to earn a single point. Novi Beograd welcomed Pro Recco back into the Champions League. Last season's finalists Novi Beograd made a lot of changes in the team this season, losing in the process Skumpakis, Vlokopoulos and several other players. Pro Recco on the other side is back in the Champions League after winning the Euro Cup last season. The Italians fought well against Ferencváros in the Super Cup played only just last week. It was not a good start to the game for Novi Beograd. Chuk had an opportunity to score the first goal from 5 metres, but Nicosia stops his shot. On the other side, Granados uses his penalty to score the first goal of the match. Pro Recco was dominating. Novi Beograd had great difficulties in organisation of the attack, and when Irving scored from another penalty at the end of the first quarter, it was already 0-4 for the Italian champions. Novi Beograd attempted a comeback. Chuk scored a beautiful goal for 2-4. But there was no stopping Pro Recco in the first half. Condemi and Irving for 2-6 at the half. The third quarter saw another comeback from Novi Beograd. Goals from Urošević, Martinović and another crafty lob from Chuk brought Novi Beograd to a goal deficit, but that was all they managed to do. Soon it was another +3 for Pro Recco again. In the last quarter, Fondelli scored 2 consecutive goals to lift Pro Recco to a 4-goal advantage again, and that was too much for Novi Beograd to catch. Granados scored his 2nd goal from 10 attempts to give the Italians a +5 advantage, but in the end it finished 12-8 for Pro Recco. A well-deserved victory for the Italian champions. That is all for this edition. We'll see you again in 2 weeks for round 2. There are some interesting encounters scheduled in this round. We'll see you then.